Hey class, in this video we're going to take a look at how to use JavaScript to access the HTML that's on our page. Right now we have a program that contains a function and what it does is it outputs hello and then a name to the console. And what we'd like to do is modify this so that it outputs that name here on the web page instead. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add a p tag. And inside the p tag, I'm going to write, we'll do an emoji. Let's run that, and we'll see the little emoji show up. There he is. Okay, so on Windows, which I'm recording these videos on a Windows machine, I can press Windows period to bring up the little emoji box, and I can insert a smiley face here instead of the manual emoji. Let's run that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so the smiley face is on the screen now, and what I want to do is I want the smiley face to say hello to me when I press the button. So next we're going to write some JavaScript. So the first thing I need to do is access that little smiley face. I need to select it and save it in my JavaScript program. Now, so that this isn't confusing, I'm actually going to take this little function here, this add3, and I'm going to delete it from my program. This isn't necessary for this video. Now that I have, now that I'm ready to select this p tag, what I'm going to do is create a variable to save that information. We'll call it message, and instead of setting like a value like this on the other side of the equal sign, what we're going to do is use a built-in method. So JavaScript has a built-in method called query selector, and it's a part of the document. So if you just think about the document like the page that we're on, or the HTML page, we can access different methods and properties of the document. So we're going to start by writing document and then the period. So the period, like we talked about with our console.log, is a way to access the methods of an object or the properties of an object in JavaScript. So after the dot, we're going to write query selector. Now this one is really easy to make a typo on. Selector is often spelled wrong. Sometimes we use a lowercase s on accident. Query is a strange word because it's not very common, but what this method does is it's going to search through the document for whatever we ask it to search for, and then it's going to return it. So when it returns it, we're going to save it in this message variable. So how do we pass it the search criteria? What we're going to do is use the parentheses, and you have to use parentheses when you're calling a method. And then inside the parentheses, we're going to put our query string, so our search criteria. I'm going to use quotes, and I'm just going to start off simple with the p tag. So the letter P, without anything else around it, signifies that I'm asking JavaScript to search for a paragraph tag, or the P element on the screen. And query selector just goes from the top down, and it finds the first one that's in the document, and it's going to return it to message. If I run this, I can check to see if it works by typing message in the console, and I can see right here it's returning the element that's on in our HTML, the p tag. Okay, and then from here I could change it. I could write message equals, actually I don't want to just, well, sure, I could say equals Jeff, and what's going to happen now is if I run that, and I get an error. So remember, constants can't be changed. So I don't want to change the message to something other than the p tag, this object right here, this HTML object. So what I want to do is change the properties of it. So it's useful to use a const for something like this because we can't accidentally write code that replaces it. Let me run this. Okay, so inside our function say hi, we have a console.log that creates the little hello Jeff string. And what I'd like to do is insert it inside this p tag. So what I can do is just add another line of code, and I can write message. And so let's try this. So message dot, and this, we'll get into this in a second, but this variable right here is holding the p tag, and that p tag is an object in JavaScript now, so I can access its properties. And the property that I want to select is inner text. And I'm just going to set it equal to Jeff for now, but later on we'll use the string. Let's run this. Okay, so when I press say hi, I can see that the console.log ran in the console, but also the smiley face is gone. It now says Jeff. Okay, so what happened here? Let me clear this console. And in my console.log, I'm gonna actually replace it with the message. Okay. So when I run this and I press say hi, I want to see what the message is. So now when I press the say hi button, the word Jeff is on the screen, but also in the console I can see that the p tag is still there. It's just that its inner text has been replaced with the word Jeff instead of the smiley face. Now I could add the smiley face down here like that, and I could say hello Jeff like that, and now it won't delete the smiley face. There it is. So now every time I press it, I can see that it replaced it with the little smiley face. So now we got the whole thing. But we're passing a name from the function. So here we say hi Jeff, and this variable is in our function, but we're not using it down here. So let's make one more change. We're going to delete these quotes, and we're going to use backticks. And then instead of Jeff, we're going to delete that, and we'll do $, curly bracket, and we're going to put name inside the curly brackets. Okay, so this will say hello Jeff again. Oh, let me run it. Clear that console. There we go, pen finished. And now it says hello Jeff. And Jeff is a lowercase j because that's what's written up here. Okay, every time I press say hi, I can see in the console that it is running multiple times, even though we don't see a change in the document. Okay, so just to recap, what we did here was we selected, well, first we created a p tag to hold our message. Then we selected it here with our method query selector. And once we did that, we were able to access the element, the HTML element, with JavaScript. And as a JavaScript object, we can access the inner text. Now, one thing I'd like to do is see how this looks in an actual web browser. So right now we're previewing this in the console, but let me do a little trick here. So when we console.log the message, we're seeing the p tag and everything inside the p tag, but we can't actually see the actual object with all of its properties and methods. And I just want to show you what that looks like. If I wrap the variable message in the curly brackets and run it, when I press say hi, I'm getting something different in my console. So the document still works. I can see hello Jeff there, and I can see my smiley face. But down in the console itself, I'm getting something that says object, object, and then message with curly brackets next to it. And this is Codepen's console trying to display something that's actually much bigger. So let me save this. And what I'm going to do is go into my debug mode. And in debug mode, I can see my little program is up here, and I can click say hi. And if I inspect, I can view my console, and I can see that what we're getting here is something different. Let me clear that. I can see message, and next to the two colon, next to the two dots, the colon, is a little P symbol, a little P, letter P. And if I click on the triangle, oh, that opens up. So I can expand this over here. Let me zoom in on this so you can see it a little bit better in the video. Close this down here. I'm going to zoom in, way in. Okay, so by enclosing the variable with curly brackets, I'm just printing out the object rather than the element. So what I was doing before was I was console.logging the P element, and it was showing me basically the HTML code. But by enclosing in the curly brackets, I can view it as an object in Chrome. So now when I open up these little arrows, I can see all of the different properties and methods that are a part of the HTML object in JavaScript. And some of this stuff is actually, it might look familiar because they are HTML attributes. And we can actually access some of these and set their values in our HTML document, like by writing just regular plain old HTML. Like for example, ID is an attribute that we can set in our HTML code. But then down here, we have that inner text, and inner text has the smiley face and hello Jeff. Inner HTML is a little different than inner text, where we can embed other HTML elements here. So we could create other nodes of HTML and insert them inside the inner HTML property for this object. And if I scroll down more, I can see there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's on mouse leave, for example, and that's an event property. I keep on going down here, I can see there's these three dots. And if I click on the three dots, it keeps going. It opens up, like there's even more stuff. And then here's style. So I can open up style and I can see, now I'm looking at the CSS properties of the object itself. So sometimes when I'm trying to, think through a problem with JavaScript, and I have an object that I'm working with, but it's not, like the program isn't working right. If you can console.log the element, it'll show you what's being selected, and that's really useful. But if if maybe there's a typo, like a simple typo, like instead of inner HTML or inner text, maybe we're not capitalizing the T, or maybe HTML, we don't have the TML capitalized. We can use this technique of printing it out in the console and then viewing it through the debug mode to see the full property name, and then of course any errors that might show up. Okay, so now that if we go back here, we can actually modify this a little bit more. Let me remove my curly brackets in my JavaScript so that the console still renders the message. Okay. So right now, when we press say hi, it says hello Jeff. But what if, your name might not be Jeff. Like, how can we get this program to say hi to you or anybody who uses this program? What we're going to do is add a little space for users to type in their name. So let's do this. Let's create an input. So if I create an input tag, what this does, if I just run this, it's going to create this little field here where I can type. And right now, if I press say hi, nothing happens, but I can type in the space here. So let's use this little text input. You've probably seen these in forms, and there's a lot more information that we could give this to make it, like really solid HTML. But for the purpose of this video, we just want the user to be able to type in their name. And when we press say hi, we want it to actually pass this value to the function instead of what's hard-coded here. Okay, so how can we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is select this input. So the input can be selected with another const variable. Let's call this variable name because it's going to contain the user's name. And we're going to use another query selector. But this time, let's use input instead of the p tag, so that it selects this entire input box, this entire text input box. Okay, so now that I have my variable created for input, let's see what that actually is. Let's remove Jeff from the method call, and then down here let's remove that as a parameter. And now name is actually going to be this variable here instead of the parameter that I had defined. So let's take console.log and let's check name just to see what that is. Okay, so I've just run my program, and when I press say hi, I can see a couple of things happen. First of all, it says object HTML input element, so that's not right. But down here in the console, I can see that it printed input type equals text. So we have the whole HTML element again, and that's what we're actually asking message.inner text to contain, which it can't, because that's not just the text that's inside. That's not the text that's written inside the object. That's the whole object. Okay, so what I need to do is access the object's property that contains the text. So that property is called value. So now when I type something in here, let me run this. So it resets the program. And if I type something in here and press say hi, it works correctly now. So instead of it printing out the Jeff or HTML object, it's now using the value that's inside the input. And if I change that value, let me put my name and say hi, it automatically gets the current value that's in the HTML object. Okay, so try that on your own and see if you can get it to work. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, and ask me if you have any questions. If it's not working for you, I'd be happy to help you work through your bugs. In the next video, we will explore this concept more. Thanks for watching.